In the early years of Foxconn's brilliant development, Apple CEO Tim Cook all but gave the iPhone manufacturing contracts to Foxconn, earning him the nickname Apple's designated manufacturer. In the end, Foxconn founder Terry Gou profited enormously by relying on Apple orders, allowing Foxconn to dominate the Chinese manufacturing industry and even earning Gou the title of Taiwan's richest man. It's no exaggeration to say that even with only orders from Apple, Foxconn's business was enough to sustain itself. Perhaps that's why Gou has become increasingly dismissive of the Chinese market and has even made arrogant remarks such as giving the mainland China a meal to eat. In recent days, however, the pressure on Gou has increased, and his actions have become less arrogant and loud as his rice bowl has been taken away. The relationship between Foxconn and Apple dates back to the 1970s, when the American manufacturing industry could not afford the high costs of labor, water, and electricity at home and began a large-scale relocation of manufacturing overseas, one of which was Apple. Later, Foxconn formed a long-term partnership with Apple and took over the latter's entire assembly business. As Apple's cake grew larger and larger, Foxconn also entered a golden period of development. As the world's largest electronics contract manufacturer, Foxconn employs up to 1.2 million people worldwide and is unrivaled in terms of hardware and industrial chains among other companies. But as the global smartphone market has cooled in recent years, Cook has increasingly advocated diversified development and has launched a series of initiatives to de-China its supply chains, determined to replicate the Made in China economic miracle in Southeast Asia. As the founder of Foxconn, which grew and prospered with Apple, Gou also decided to follow in its footsteps. Not only did he invest $1 billion to build a factory in India, but he also announced plans to phase out 300 billion yuan of manufacturing capacity from China in the coming years. What Terry Gou did not expect, however, was that while he tried to please Apple by giving up the mainland market, Tim Cook never considered him one of his own. Beginning with the iPhone 15, Apple was deliberately bringing in other contract manufacturers and handing over some of the older model business to them, which bothered Gou a bit. Not wanting to simply make hard-earned money by following Apple's lead, Gou didn't expect to lose the exclusive right to produce standard iPhone Pro models. According to market rumors, Apple took 27 of the order volume owned by Foxconn and gave 15 and 12 to Chinese manufacturers Luxshare Precision and Pegatron respectively. It is worth noting that Pegatron partnered with Apple back in 1999, but in 2012, the relationship between the two companies broke down due to problems with production efficiency. Foxconn took advantage of the situation and won favor with Apple. Now that Pegatron is about to take over 15% of Apple's production share, it remains to be seen whether it can seize this opportunity to challenge Foxconn's position as the king of contract manufacturers. Gou can't afford to be patient when it ceded 27% of Apple's orders to these two Chinese manufacturers. Despite receiving an overwhelming number of orders from Apple through Foxconn in recent years, its profit margin was still less than 1/10. The fame was only on the surface. Even Apple, with its huge market value, knows to be prepared for the worst. As a longtime Apple supplier, Gou failed to recognize the importance of risk diversification. This also serves as a warning to other Chinese companies. Don't have any illusions about foreign companies. Only by mastering core technologies can we break free from the constraints of others. Orders for the iPhone 15 have reportedly been shuffled. For the first time, Apple has split the production orders for its high-end iPhone 15 Pro model among 3 contract manufacturers. Luxshare Precision will get 15% of the orders for the iPhone 15 series, which came as a surprise to both Luxshare and its founder Wang Lachun. Foxconn's relationship with Apple is an integral part of Apple's supply chain, and as a member of Apple's supply chain, Foxconn has secured a significant number of Apple orders, allowing it to dominate the electronics contract manufacturing industry. Of course, there are many other electronics contract manufacturers in the market that are also vying for a large market share, including Luxshare Precision. Luxshare and Foxconn have a deep history, as Luxshare founder Wang Lachun was one of the first employees at the Foxconn plant in mainland China, worked his way up from the lower ranks to management, and then founded his own business. It is difficult for a newly established company to gain a foothold in the market, but Luxshare received help from Foxconn, which allocated Luxshare several orders. As a result, Foxconn became Luxshare's main customer and even invested 400 billion yuan to become a major shareholder. With Foxconn's help, Luxshare's development became smoother, and it successfully entered Apple's supply chain. Luxshare originally became part of Apple's supply chain, producing cables for MacBooks and iPads, and has been receiving orders from Apple ever since. This time, Luxshare received orders for the iPhone 15, marking its first entry into the roster of contract manufacturers of full iPhone models. The share of orders reached 15%, which came as a surprise to Wang Lichun. He did not expect Luxshare, which was backed by Foxconn, to start competing with Foxconn for orders, so it could be said that Wang Lichun created a potential threat. Apple is Foxconn's biggest customer, and with the help of Apple's orders, Foxconn has been able to achieve a laying down and winning rhythm. To follow Apple's lead, Terry Gou has been actively building factories in India for the past 2 years to meet Apple's wishes, since India has cheap labor. The results, however, have not been as satisfying as expected. Although labor is indeed cheaper than in China, workers are difficult to manage, yield rates are low, and production capacity has not kept up with production. Terry Gou went to India to build factories to meet Apple's needs, but ended up losing a lot. Not only did he fail to get Apple recognized, but the orders were divided among Luxshare Precision, which was pretty brutal. Tim Cook is a shrewd businessman, and Apple's decision to move its supply chain to India has 2 reasons: cheap labor and less dependence on the Chinese market. The US is doing everything it can to suppress Chinese companies, and Apple, too, is afraid that one day it will be restricted in the Chinese market, so it is proactive. So Apple's decision to split orders among Luxshare Precision can also be seen as a way to diversify the supply chain rather than putting all its eggs in one basket. For Foxconn, this means that its order volume will shrink. The crisis for Foxconn has come as Luxshare Precision receives more and more orders from Apple, a trend that indicates Foxconn is likely to fall out of favor. When Foxconn, which has always relied on Apple, separates from it, the consequences will be significant. In fact, China has long been calling for a break from its dependence on Apple, but many domestic companies see becoming part of Apple's supply chain as an extremely good opportunity. Foxconn, for example, has always followed in Apple's footsteps, but is that really a good thing? Apple intends to diversify its supply chain, so relying too heavily on Apple could have huge consequences for the company if it is ever abandoned. Terry Gou should be aware of this, and diversification is key. If you look at the dynamics of Luxshare Precision, it is likely to become a strong competitor to Foxconn and may even surpass it in the future. At that time, Foxconn will find itself in a passive position. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Subscribe to the channel and write your opinion in the comments.